I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Nicole Powell.
The first kind of step that I walk my clients through is really understanding their audience more than their audience understands themselves. So it's essentially getting to the root of what their real fears, pain points, challenges are, or what keeps them up at night. So that's what we really want to focus on, right? So the things that people don't outwardly want to talk about, but that's what's preventing them from taking action or not taking action.
Nicole Powell is the founder of HALCON Marketing Solutions and a certified brand strategist with 16 years of experience at Disney, ESPN, and Fox Networks. Born in Manila and raised in the Bronx, this St. Louis entrepreneur balances running her agency with raising 2 toddlers while empowering businesses to thrive through her unique blend of instinct and creative flair. My interview with Nicole Powell is coming right up, but first...
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Any vehicle can take you places, but why stop there? The Alfa Romeo Tonale combines luxurious Italian design and electrifying performance to make every mile a masterpiece and every arrival unforgettable. When precision meets instinct and power moves with purpose, you never have to stay in a lane. Experience a world without limits in the Alfa Romeo Tonale plug-in hybrid. Tap the banner to learn more. Alfa Romeo is a registered trademark of FCA Group Marketing SPA, used with permission.
Nicole Powell, welcome to On Brand.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to chat. You know, we were joking a bit earlier before we started recording. I am a lifelong Iowan, and I said, your life is much more interesting. And you very politely said, no. But just in terms of your journey from Manila to the Bronx to the Midwest right here in St. Louis, I wonder if there is a parallel journey with that geographical journey that led you into brand building as well.
Yes. So I actually wanted to become on air. That's kind of how it all started. So I kind of segued into TV production, and then I worked with a lot of folks in executing these wonderful brand books and these, brand strategies into television and content that people consumed. And I kind of started thinking to myself, why I want to be the one who builds these brands, right? I don't want to be the ones handed the books or the messaging. I want to be the one to create it and see it come to life. And that kind of took me all over the place, a bunch of different folks and companies. And now I'm helping small and mid-sized businesses do just that and kind of translating that big brand process or methodology.
I love that, kind of grounded in the key moment that I always talk about with students that a lot of times you have to listen for, but when that little voice in your head says the all important, why not me? Or I think I could do this, right. and jumping right in. And I like what you said too about your passion with small to medium sized businesses, because I feel like sometimes brand building, brand strategy, brand building practices can feel like that's only for for the big guys and gals. That's not something that that's not something you do at this size of business. So do you find that you have to right size some of those practices, or can you just bring some of that big brand thinking directly in?
That is a wonderful question. So that's kind of been my mission, to be honest with you, starting this agency. I came from that world and working with those bigger brands that we all know and love. And then I came into helping these small to mid-sized businesses, and I had no idea what this even was. They associated brand building really with what's my logo, right? What's my color palette? I'm sure you've heard this
Yes.
before. And a huge part of my mission and why I even do these podcasts, and I just did like a workshop last night, is to educate people on how important it is to brand build, whatever size business you are, because there's so much competition, especially in this digital age, that you have to differentiate yourself. Now, do you want to create a 1,000 page, I'm just exaggerating here, brand book all the time?
Right.
Probably not if you're a local business, or if you're smaller in size. But I think there is a way, and I think I've created that kind of system to take that big brand process and merge it into something that's more tangible and doable, and from a budget standpoint, right? Definitely
Right.
approachable for small businesses.
Well, I love the approachability aspect because I do think you did a much better job of describing that gap. Because on one hand, the approach of big brands sometimes can be, again, the great big brand book that I always joke, sometimes we're creating these artifacts that if everybody likes them, signs off on them, they sit up on the shelf with the crisis plan, never to be heard from again. And then on the other side of that, on the smaller side of that, you've got yeah, what's my logo, and what's our shade of blue that we want to make sure that everybody gets right. Otherwise, it's the Wild West. So as you chart out the in between of brand strategy today, what is important? Because both of those worlds described have things that aren't quite right. But what do you need to bring into brand building to stand out at a time when it's harder than ever to do just that?
Sure. So the first kind of step that I walk my clients through is really understanding their audience more than their audience understands themselves. So it's essentially getting to the root of what their real fears, pain points, challenges are. So I like to say, there's that superficial answer where I'd love to tell a room of 50 people what my problem is. But then there's that problem, and that there's that worry that they think about with their significant other right before bed, or what keeps them up at night. So that's what we really want to focus on, right? So the things that people don't outwardly want to talk about, but that's what's preventing them from taking action or not taking action. And then secondly, I think it's so, so important to be consistent. I think the biggest challenge or mistake that I see a lot of businesses make is they think one ad, one post, one commercial, one podcast, and then that's it, right? And they're just going to let it free, and it's going to give them the business that they want, and everyone's going to know what their brand stands for. And I mean, we're just fighting for people's memory and for people's attention. So there has to be that knowledge of our audience and creating messaging that really speaks to them in a deeper level, right? But also making sure that we're consistent with that message, not just visually, but also verbally. I think there's that huge mistake of, I'm just going to throw a bunch of dollars into something that's not working, and it's going to miraculously work because more people see it, right? But if it's not working from the beginning and it's not resonating because you're not really talking to your audience, you could spend $1 million and it might not work the way you want.
Right. So as you talk about about really going deep and understanding your customer and what keeps them up at night. And, I think you even said in there what they don't always talk about and share readily. Sounds, one, important, two, also hard to find. So how do you uncover those really valuable consumer insights?
So for all of our brand building, brand development programs, we do a lot of talking. We do a lot of interviewing. And I call myself and my team investigators. Like, we're detectives. So we like to read between the lines. And usually if you talk to enough people and then you pair that with just what you learn from a psychology standpoint in marketing, and then obviously we're looking at research when it comes to, neuromarketing studies, you kind of combine that all together with all of the things that you obtain from speaking to a bunch of different people. And I found real great success in really uncovering what that is, to the point where I've had clients kind of almost cry because they feel like, oh my God, this is it. Like, you totally get it. But I think it doesn't come from one conversation that you have with a client, right? And what I found is there is a lot of misalignment between what a person thinks and what the outside world, the customer, their colleagues actually also believe and think about their brand. And it's my job to uncover where that misalignment is. And through conversations, kind of being like a therapist in a way, getting down to the root of what's really ailing you and how do we fix that.
I love that you said that it involves a lot of talking, because I feel like when it comes to getting customer insights, we don't necessarily gravitate towards talking immediately. We think there's data out there that I have to get. I have to find the right, and there's a place for that. And you talk specifically about combining insights from those conversations, from the talking with that. But I think the problem for many is that we don't think about customer intelligence as a talking related pursuit or skill.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I look at it as like any relationship. Like, if we're just if we met on a first date, chances are I'm not going to tell you everything that I am nervous about. Right. So the idea is, the more you talk to them, the more you focus on the relationship, the idea is that they're going to be more comfortable with you. They're going to see you as having their back and part of their team. And maybe they'll be able to share more about them. It's not just about, okay, I got to deliver this brand book by X amount of time and then see you later, catch you later. So our goal is really to create that relationship and that safe space where our clients understand, hey, if you want to succeed, you got to be a little vulnerable here, because we need to really uncover what your secret sauce is.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
When you check out at the pharmacy, you see the journey from idea to medicine, thanks to our intellectual property system, or IP for short. IP safeguards inventions, like a new way to prevent seizures or lower cholesterol. And IP supports competition from other brands, then lower-cost generics, which are 90% of prescriptions filled in the U.S. Innovation, competition, lower costs, thanks to IP. Learn more at phrma.org/IPWorksWonders.
Now, back to the show. I think that is so very important. And as we talk about talking,
Mm.
I want to clarify too, because I feel like another assumption we make today is that we can do that as brands through social media, through I'm going to post something and we'll wait to hear from them. And I want to follow up. When you say talking, I would imagine that you're talking about this, about talking, about
Correct.
even if it takes place online, that it is one to one, that we're actually seeing someone talk instead of doing it through digital filters.
You're 100% correct. So we do one-on-one interviews, we do focus groups, we do kind of our preference is in person because again, the
Yeah.
energy, the vibe, there's just a different way of feeling and sensing things, and also interactions between people. Look, there's an answer and then they look to see if that's a right answer. That usually signals something to me that something's off here. But you're absolutely right. It's not about just gathering a bunch of info or data in the World Wide Web or social media. It's actually that human connection. And ultimately, from a biological standpoint, that's all we want. We want to feel connected to other people. And if you're not actually talking to individuals on a one-on-one level, how are you going to get those insights that you need to connect with other people?
Well, and I wondered if you'd say more on the setting of that too, because you talk about a preference for talking in person. Um, and I think a lot of times we think of very formal environments that can be intimidating. Is there anything different about environmental considerations for customer conversations like this?
So my preference, and it kind of ladders up to what we like as humans and what our brains like, is right. You want to feel safe. You want to
Yeah.
be nervous. So if I'm going to bring you to a cold room that's white and I'm wearing a suit and I'm having you come in this circle and we're going to have a form and we're going to talk to each other, you're probably not going to feel comfortable. You probably feel like you're going to get interrogated, especially if you know the purpose of what we're doing. So I actually just did kind of a meeting, and I took them to this really very cool Zen spot, the small group, and kind of just chit chatted, made them feel comfortable. And ideally, I want them to feel like this is a safe space for you to share your truth. And even in those spaces, most people might not say what they're really going to do or what they really think, but at least I'm putting them in a space where um, they could feel comfortable talking to me. And hopefully, I'm comforting to talk to.
That's so great. Nicole, I have to tell you, I was a little worried that I got to ask this question right, because what if she takes people to a sterile white room, wears a suit, has a clipboard? But my assumption was that your thinking, that your approach was in line with that, because I think that modern consumers are also savvy. We know if I go into a white room with a person with a suit and a clipboard and there's a big mirror over there, I know there's people behind them. We know what these things
Yeah.
look like. And we run that calculus through our brains in response to that as well. So, both creating safety and uncovering real truths as much as you can, I think is important. And to the uncovering of those truths, I wonder if there's anything in the types of questions that you and your team prefer in doing this work that yield more valuable insights.
So it's interesting because when we come into these interviews or these talks and we have a list of questions, and a lot of the times they're very specific to what we need. And I'll be honest with you, by the end of it, I was probably not asked every question because we want to keep it a conversation. And there's just things that people say, and then the light bulb comes up, and it's like, well, tell me a little bit more about that. Or, what, what is your perception of the brand? I know you always starts off with that, and then it goes crazy because then all of a
Right.
sudden you start to people start to give you a little bit more, and then you continue that conversation. I think honestly during these talks, the biggest quote unquote killer of the vibe is when I go okay, and then I totally redirect into
Next page.
question, which I think is that very sterile environment of I got to cross these off without really letting yourself be open and really listening to what your interviewees are telling you. Um, I'm really a huge fan of openness and freedom when it comes to this. I don't know if you can tell with my energy, but I
The
really
arm gestures definitely let me know what you're going after here.
I'm doing some weird arm gestures right now. But the idea is I think everyone's so like robotic, like this is what we gotta do in order to do this. And I just want us to be free and comfortable to really share. And hopefully the folks that have been in the same room with me feel the same way where I'm not as structured so that they can feel the freedom to not feel handcuffed to a specific answer that they think they want to say because that's what they want to say and how do they want to be perceived. I mean, I'm
Well,
goofy. Look, I mean, but
I saw the arm thing.
my arms thing, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, it's fun because uh, for a peek behind the curtain for listeners of the show, I'm often asked by folks booking guests, can you send the questions? And I don't really have any questions. I try to pick good guests that I want to talk to,
Right.
but I've learned that people that book guests want questions. So I made some. I I I don't really look at them. I don't have them up in front of me,
Right.
but questions about brand building. And it's what we're doing, but my goal is the same, is a conversation. And I think that that's such a valuable thing to think about looking for from consumers, because I feel like, again, we go after it with the stale or the sterile environment and the clipboard of questions, and we're after data. And I think what you're talking about with psychological safety, with conversation, really leads to connection with customers, both in the room and, I would imagine, what brands and brand builders are able to do with those insights once gleaned.
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure listeners and even you yourself have seen websites with just or digital assets or anything that just seems so basic, for lack of a better term, kind of something that is repeated over and over and over because that is the sterile answer, right? Like we are great at fixing teeth. We are great at um, taking care of your kids, right? Everybody says that, right? It's the same thing because you're asking the same questions. So you're getting the same answers. So the idea here is to essentially create that connection, go beyond the first date, as I like to say. It's like, let's get married, one of those things, or share your secrets with me so that I can really give you and serve you with my product or my service what you need, right? Ultimately, I look at this whole thing as dating and a marriage, and we got to get past that first date, baby, or else we're never gonna have a family. I don't know where I'm going with this,
No, well, I mean, I think it gets back to connection. And
right?
a bad first date means we, didn't pass the vibe check, and it didn't go anywhere.
Right?
And I think when we're talking about customers, and I love what you said, and I think it's especially true today when we're overwhelmed with a fire hose of information from brands. Yeah, everybody's got the most friendly customer service agents. Everyone's quality is the very best.
Mhm.
and it's surface level first date stuff. And we can all acknowledge that, but I think what's harder to do is the work of, okay, so what are we really doing? What is the impact that we're having? And I think what you've talked about here, these real conversations, questions, connection, help us to, I love it, get beyond the first date with our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get married, everybody. Let's get married to our customers.
Well, this concept has certainly made me smile. So it is now my delight to get to ask you for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Sure. That's an easy question. Just a few weekends ago, my family and I have two sons, as you mentioned, a 3 and 5-year-old. We went to this Lego experience in DC, and it just reminded me again of why Lego has stood the test of time and is the brand it is today. And ultimately, it's blocks. Again, everybody, if you really think about it, it's just a bunch of blocks. But they've created this experience tapped into just this sense of play that adults sometimes forget, right? And it's really, they're just great storytellers and great immersive marketers, right? Like they make you feel it from every touch point, everywhere. They just make you feel it. And as a parent, seeing my kids being excited and remembering how I was excited as a kid, right? Taps into that nostalgia, but it also gives me the okay, again, kind of referring back to what I said earlier, to just play and just be, and just, have fun with the whole process, which again is how I look at marketing and brand building in general. So I love Lego.
Yeah, I love when the brand smile really inadvertently reinforces everything that we've been talking about because I love Lego and as you said that, I'm like, when have they ever said we have the highest quality bricks
Right.
with the most colors? And it's not about any of the product marketing that we would think. It gets back to what you said, play. And I'm reminded of I love history and history of brands too. I believe Lego is comes from the Danish legot, which is to play.
Uh-huh.
So they are living that everywhere. So such a great brand smile that is a reminder of finding that connection.
Yeah.
Nicole, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So they can follow me on Instagram at Nicole Powell Brand. I'm sure if you find me there, you'll find my agency, but you can start from there. And my agency's website is www.halconmarketing.com.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Nicole Powell, thanks for being on brand with us.
Thank you, Nick.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hinika Watkis-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hinika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at HenikaWatkis-Porter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.